You're crazy. You know that?
Nah, just desperate.
It's like when you realize that history is not just written in a book. It's like people lived that.
Some of you have talked about how I've become more spiritually connected from doing this show, or I've learned more about the Gospels from this show. Talk about that a little bit.
I don't know how you guys felt, but for me, I genuinely felt like everything about this production, from being on set to reading the script to getting to know everybody, while we were shooting it, I felt like I was actually living in those times, interacting with the people of those times. For me, my background's always been Christian. My grandfather was a priest, but this, being around him, being in this project was very similar feeling-wise to what being around him was, as far as feeling spiritually connected for me. And it kind of brought all that together. And so I was like, wow, this is really special. Not only are the people awesome, but there's something really pleased with what we're doing here. It was almost like I was living a double life, like when I was doing Zebedee, and I'm back at Nick with the hotel with you guys. And then I felt like you guys really were my sons in like another dimension almost. Like this is what the family would be like. So this has been an amazing, amazing experience. And what people are seeing on screen is only, I feel like, half of what we experience when we're actually doing it.
There's also an aspect to what I learned as well as, and this is great, for people watching it who might, like myself, who grew up sort of Greek Orthodox, but you sort of, especially, a lot of people get that thing where they separate, it just becomes religious, and then that sort of becomes a little bit sort of, I don't know, it becomes a little rigid. And then watching how this TV show, how it portrays not only Jesus, but also his followers, there was something practical about it. The way he talks is a really cool quote about, look at the flowers, how they don't sort of toil or labor. And it's that connection to, I guess, the world, and that aspect of it brought back the practical aspect of spirituality for me, because I always saw religion as this sort of very rigid structure. The way that you've made this more real, the way that the show has made it more real, was eye-opening to me, because that's how it was done back then. That's what he was trying to do.
Well, and he came into a very, very extraordinarily rigid structure. And I think that's what's also very relatable to today. Whereas when you see certain religious structures that are obsessed with the law or with the rigidity of it, and they lose the relationship, and Jesus was speaking against that. He kept saying, the rules are good. They're there to help you, but you're using them, and you're manipulating them, and you're using them as a weapon.
Mm-hmm. You! By whose authority do you teach? Answer me!
And I'm about breaking all that down and breaking down those barriers. And so we've seen a lot of people who grew up in a rigid religious structure who've seen the show and felt almost the freedom or the permission to now see God in a much more personal way. Yeah. And see the scriptures much more personally and spiritually than as a tool in a building that they have to behave to access.
It won't be all about mountains or temples.
Soon, just the heart.
I had never before working on the show had a kind of inside track in a personal way into that kind of aspect of religion. The characters were we're really kind of one-dimensional. Maybe that's just the representation, the way that we've seen them in other movies or in other things or whatever. But then it was really being like, there's nothing statuesque about loading your camping gear up into a thing. You know what I mean? It's like they did that. You slept outside. Like these people dealt with the bugs the way we dealt with the bugs. And so like they don't put that in the statue, in the one-dimensional kind of thing. It's like people were people, and people have always been people. And so the kind of things that you have to deal with the elements, with the institutions around these people, with the government, everything, it's like that. I was like, it just opened my eyes. It's like when you realize that history is not just written in a book. It's like people lived that. That was real to them, and it didn't just go away the second you read the sentence and it was gone. It was like, no, that was like, an event in their lives that they went through. And so that kind of stuff to me was really special to be a part of and to find out. Yeah.